everybody, my name is Jess and welcome to the Sallie Tomato YouTube channel. Today I have a fun tutorial to share with you. We are going to be making a patchwork clutch. First of all, if you're new here, welcome. I'm so glad that you found us because we have so many great sewing tutorials to share with you and lots of inspiration. And if you've been here before, welcome, welcome, welcome back. So glad to have you here. This tutorial is for one of my newest pattern releases, the Kitty Patchwork Clutch. This pattern is scrap friendly and you can virtually use any fabric you like from cotton to cork. The design and name of this pattern was inspired by our Time Warp pattern series, where I drew inspiration from 1970s fashion and the popular comedic sitcom That 70s Show. I've also designed this bag to have two different patchwork options, so that way it's very scrap friendly. This bag has so many possibilities for fabric choices, plus you can carry it as a clutch or attach a chain strap to carry it crossbody. For the closure on this clutch, I decided to feature a flex frame, which is a brand new hardware release. The frame allows the bag to softly snap closed to keep your items safe inside. This bag is a great size to carry your everyday essentials such as your phone, keys, cards, and sunglasses. Before we get started, be sure to grab a pattern. You can either download it from our website or check at your local Sallie Tomato retailer. You can visit our website to see a complete list of Sallie Tomato retailers. All of the supplies you need are listed on the back of the pattern. So gather all of your supplies, cut out the pieces that you need, and let's begin. The first step to getting started is to cut out all of your pieces. First, let's start with the main fabric. There are two patchwork options included in the pattern. You can choose to cut exterior strips or blocks. Either option is great to create a scrappy version, or you can use a single fabric. I'm using a single fabric for this project. But if you'd like a scrappy version, you can use 3 to 6 different fabrics to cut the total pieces that are needed. So here I have my pieces A for the exterior strips. And here are my casing pieces, depending on which type of fabric you're using. If you're using a woven fabric or a non-woven fabric like me, such as cork or faux leather, then you'll want to make sure to cut your piece according to the pattern. Next, you'll need some lining fabric, and for the lining, I recommend a quilt cotton. So here I have the interior pieces, the slip pocket piece, which is optional, and optional strap connectors. The strap connectors you'll want to make if you're going to attach a chain strap to wear the bag crossbody. You'll also need some interfacing, which will be fused to your interior pieces. Again, if you're using woven fabric for your casing, then you'll also need to cut some additional pieces for your casing out of the interfacing. And the last fabric that you may need is foam. This is optional and it's only recommended if you're using woven fabrics for your main fabric. So since I'm using non-woven fabric, I do not need any foam stabilizer. The faux leather already has great body to it, so we don't need any additional bulk in the seams. Next, we'll move on to fusing the interfacing to the coordinating pieces. I've already went ahead and done this step. Start by centering and fusing your interfacing to the wrong side of your coordinating pieces for your interior and possibly your casing. Again, since I'm using faux leather, I don't need any interfacing added to the faux leather. Next, we'll create the patchwork exterior. If you're making a scrappy patchwork exterior, I recommend to arrange 6 strips or 12 blocks for the front, and then arrange 6 strips or 12 blocks for the back in an order that appeals to you before you begin sewing your rows together. So I recommend to plan it out on your work table first, so that way you have an arrangement that you like for the front and also for the back. Then you can begin by taking any 2 of your main fabric pieces A and place them right sides together. You'll want to use sewing clips to hold the pieces together if you're using faux leather or cork, and you can certainly use pins if you'd like if you're using a woven fabric. Then over at the sewing machine, we'll sew the pieces together along the longest edge. Make sure to refer to your pattern for the seam allowance and the stitch length recommended for the pattern. After sewing, press the seam open. If you're using faux leather or cork fabric, you'll want to finger press the seams open instead of using an iron. These types of materials generally don't hold a crease very well, so I'm just going to give it a light finger press. And as I move on to assembling the bag later on, I'll just make sure that the seams lay flat and open. Then we're simply going to repeat the same process to create a row of 6 strips or 6 blocks for the exterior front. Then we'll work on preparing the exterior back by making another row of 6 strips or 6 blocks. If you're creating the block patchwork, you'll repeat the same process to create a second row of 6 blocks for the front and a second row of 6 blocks for the back. Then you'll join together the 2 rows by placing them right sides together for the front along the length. Make sure to align the seams and the side edges. Then sew the 2 rows together for the front and press the seam open. Then you'll repeat to assemble the back. You can refer to the pattern for an illustration and the written instructions for creating the block patchwork. The next step is to attach the optional foam. If you're going to attach foam stabilizer, you'll position your fabric and your foam right side up and align all edges of each exterior piece over one foam piece F, based an 1/8 inch from each of the outer edges. Then if you'd like, you can add some optional top stitching in the ditch or over each of the patchwork seams. You could sew a straight stitch on each side of the seam, or you could even zigzag stitch or use some of the decorative stitches built into your machine to do a fun quilting design. To help my seam allowances lay flat, I'm going to finger press the seams open and top stitch an 1/8 inch from each side of the seam. For any quilting on faux leather or cork fabric, I highly recommend using a Teflon foot. It will help you sew over your fabrics a lot easier. I'm sewing on the Baby Lock Accomplish, and I have the narrow foot attached. I generally leave this foot on for the entire project. It's a great foot for 1/8 inch top stitching, installing zippers, basting, and piecing throughout the entire project. I generally don't have any issues with this foot sticking to faux leather or cork fabric, so that's why I leave it on for the entire project. Next, we'll make and attach the casing. You'll want to press both of the short edges of each of the main fabric piece B casing a 1/2 inch to the wrong side and top stitch a 1/4 inch from each of the folded edges. If you're using non-woven like I am, you don't have to worry about that step. Next, for any type of fabric that you're using, with wrong sides together, fold each casing in half lengthwise and either finger press or press it at the iron. Then with right sides together, center the raw edges of one casing along the top edge of each exterior piece. Use some sewing clips to hold the layers together, then top stitch an 1/8 inch from the raw edges. I've already went ahead and made and attached the interior slip pocket. This pattern feature is optional, but I did design the slip pocket so it's an ideal size for a phone, and if you prefer to store smaller items inside, you can divide the pocket into 2 compartments by top stitching a vertical line up the center of the slip pocket. For step-by-step instructions on how to attach the slip pocket, visit the link included in the pattern for a video tutorial on how to make and attach this style of pocket. When you fold the slip pocket in half, match the 9-inch edges. After your slip pocket is assembled, center the top edge of the pocket 2 inches down from the top edge of one lining piece C. Next, we'll create and attach the optional strap connectors. If you're not going to add strap connectors to your bag and use your bag as a clutch versus a crossbody, then you can skip to the next section of instructions. With wrong sides together, fold the long edges of the lining fabric piece E strap connector to the middle and press. Then, with wrong sides together, fold piece E in half again, encasing the long raw edges. Over at the machine, top stitch an 1/8 inch from each link side. After sewing, subcut the strap connector into 2 pieces according to the pattern. Then thread each strap connector through 1 D-ring with the flat side of the hardware against the wrong side. Then, with wrong sides together, fold the raw ends of each strap connector so they meet in the middle. Use some pins or a sewing clip to hold the layers together. Next, with right sides up, position 1 strap connector over each lining piece C for your interior and refer to the pattern for the placement. Then you're going to top stitch along the hardware and an 1/8 inch from remaining edges. Make sure to backstitch for reinforcement. Now we're ready to assemble the bag. Position a large standard spool of thread in each bottom corner of the prepared exterior and interior pieces. Trace the outer edge of the spool, then cut along the marked line to round each bottom corner. With right sides together, align all edges and seams of the exterior front and back panels. Use sewing clips to hold the layers together. Then sew the sides and bottom edges together with a 1/4 inch seam allowance. Next, with right sides together, align all edges of the lining panels with the strap connectors at the top. Begin sewing at the top edge with 3/8 inch seam allowance and increase to a 1/2 inch seam. You'll want to leave about 4 inches unsewn along the center bottom edge, and this will be for turning the bag right side out. Make sure to backstitch at your stop and start points for the opening. Then, as your seam approaches the other top edge, decrease your seam allowance back to 3/8 inch wide. After sewing, trim the seam allowance to a 1/4 inch wide, except at the opening. You'll want to leave the full width. Then turn your lining right side out. And with right sides together, insert the lining into the exterior, aligning the top raw edges and side seams. Use sewing clips to hold the layers together. Then you'll sew around the top edge with a 1/4 inch seam allowance. Turn your bag right side out through the unsewn section in the lining. Then turn the raw edges of the opening to the wrong side so the folds are even with the seam, and you can either hand sew or top stitch the seam closed. Smooth the lining down into the exterior and make sure that the casing is above the seam. Then top stitch a 1/4 inch from the top edge. The last step is to insert the flex frame hardware into the casing according to the manufacturer's instructions. We do have a step-by-step video tutorial on how to install our brand new flex frame hardware on our YouTube channel, which we linked below. Then you can simply clip your optional chain to your D-rings and your kitty clutch is complete. And I have one final tip to share with you to help shape your bag. After the bag is complete, you can use your fingers to roll the seams and add some sewing clips to compress the fabric and help maintain the outer shape of the bag. Let the clips sit for a few hours or even overnight, and then you can remove your clips. Congratulations! I hope you enjoyed learning how to make the kitty clutch pattern. I would love to hear in the comments if you have any honest feedback about the pattern, the tutorial, or the construction of the pattern itself. We would love for you to share and show off photos of your completed bag so that way we can see it and celebrate with you. You should be so proud for completing this project, and we'd love to see how we're styling your new clutch and the fun fabrics that you chose. So go snap a picture of your bag and share it with hashtag Sallie Tomato and hashtag Kitty Clutch on social media so we can see it. We would love to feature you on our Instagram or Facebook page. And remember, if you liked this video, please give it a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel so you don't miss out on any future videos. Thanks again for watching, and I hope you'll check out the rest of our pattern line for more professional looking projects. See you next time.